Dawn of DC is a new era of DC now, and to kick off, well, the Flash has already been introduced in this new era, but to really push it forward more than they've already done it, they're starting off with kind of redoing the Flash as a character in a way, and they're making it Wally West. While Barry Allen's still around, Wally is the main focus in the first issue of this new era of the Flash, or at least, you know, God knows how long this will actually stick around. The Legacy issue number 801, which is releasing September 26th of this year, which will feature a new Flash look like you're seeing on your screen right now. And it's a team that I'm pretty sure worked on 1 Minute War, or at least part of that team worked on 1 Minute War, because I do recognize some of those names, not all of them, but some of them. And also the design of the Flash is very similar, at least for Wally's Flash, very similar to one from 1 Minute War. I do want to express here, my Flash will always be Barry Allen, but I am okay with Wally being the main focus because quite frankly, Barry has been the main focus for the last like several decades. So I think it's about damn time that Wally became the main focus for a while. I'm not saying forever. I would prefer if Barry does become the main focus every now and then. But I am excited that Wally's getting his chance in the spotlight and not just like, oh, a couple comic runs. Like, this just seems like it's, you know, Wally is the main Flash for the Dawn of DC era. I'm really excited for it. And so as a Flash fan, I'm excited for this. I understand people kind of want more Barry, or, you know, less Barry in some cases. I think it's about time we get more Wally. I'm saying that as a fan of Barry Allen more than Wally West. And I think that we should all be on board with this because it really does look exciting. And it sounds exciting too. So issue 801, or the first issue of The Flash Dawn in DC, it has so many descriptions for it. So I'm just going to kind of breathe through all those and get my thoughts behind all that. So the first one says, Wally West races towards new worlds, mysterious aliens, and mind-shattering threats. Now, this alone kind of got me a little bit excited because they're also coming with something new. I would assume something new. Something that we haven't seen before, like 1 Minute War was, or, you know, most of the stories that we're getting now. It really is kind of exciting. As a fan of The Flash as a character, it is exciting to see this character still getting something new and vibrant coming in. Maybe it's because it's Wally. I mean, you know, like I said, Barry's been around for several decades in the comics, live action, animation. You know, Barry's had at least, what, 10 years of television? Like 3 or 4 movies across animation and live action. And, you know, the only project he didn't really appear in, or didn't appear in at all, I should say, was Justice League Unlimited. But the other really projects revolved around the Justice League or The Flash has all been Barry Allen. Wally may have appeared or been mentioned, but it was strictly Barry Allen. So the fact that maybe this is Wally, maybe, you know, the originality will become a lot more easier to produce than, you know, if it was Barry. That's not me hating on Barry, that's me just simply saying, you know, Wally's kind of not a new character, but, you know, it's the first time of him being in a spotlight like this, on this scale, and, you know, it's really gonna work. So the description of the comic is as follows. Wally West has never been quicker, more fulfilled, and more heroic. Kind of gets me excited. His loving family is around him, and yes, something is off, very off. His evolving understanding of his powers has opened Wally to new avenues, a sci-fi adventure, and attuned his senses to strange new ideas. Something whispers from the dark vibrations beyond the Speed Force, and as Wally experiments with creative new approaches to his powers, he encounters new realms, mysterious aliens, and mind-shattering terrors. So, kind of what description I read already that's on the comic, or at least on the promo comic cover that we got. But this is just more like, you know, express description of the comic itself. And it does really get me excited for this comic. Just to see everything they're going to do for the Flash, the character is really exciting. Because actually Wally is faster than Barry, you know, which I kind of wish was different, but but that's because I'm biased. Like, Barry's my Flash. But I'm also okay with, you know, like I said already earlier on in the video, I'm okay with Wally having the spotlight. Just, you know, not that much. No, I'm perfectly okay with Wally having the spotlight. And I'm perfectly okay with him being faster than Barry. And since we do know that in this universe, Barry, at least in this era, I don't know about the universe, but in this era, Barry is still the Flash, just not that main Flash. And I mean, you could kind of get that through 1 Minute War, that they're like trying to edge Wally into being the main Flash, and then they killed him off and brought him back. So it wasn't exactly like, you could tell what they were trying to do, but it didn't really, at least, you know, it took a story. But hearing that Wally will be quicker, more fulfilled, more heroic with the Speed Force and all that, with his powers, it's very, very, very exciting, for me at least. And I think this will be really good for the Flash. Now, do I think that this should happen in live action? Yes. I mean, you know, Barry's been the constant variable in live action for, like I said already, 2 decades. I mean, since the 90s when John played the Flash. It was really when the character in live action kind of, you know, started to take aim and all that. And then CW show came around, Grant got cast in the Arrow, and then, you know, the show got picked up for 9 seasons. And then Ezra, who we all kind of regret now him being cast. And, you know, the Flash movie came out, the live action one, and Ezra starred in it 3 times and played like 3 different Barrys. And I do think now that that happened, I'm more open to Wally being the main Flash of the DCU, just because, you know, I feel like Barry should be the first person in everything. And by me saying I think Barry should be the first person in everything, I mean, like, when we had the live action movie, which we did, I'm glad it was Barry. I wish it was better if it was a different actor, but I am glad it was Barry. I'm glad that Barry's the first person in the comics before Wally to become the Flash. Obviously, Jay was, I think, the first one, right? But obviously, Barry being like the main Flash first, and then now it's Wally. Or in the show, if they had introduced Wally, like this Wally was, so I'm talking about, and made him the Flash, I'm glad it was still Barry first. If they ever do a video game, it should be Barry-centric. Then you can bring in Wally later on, or in the sequel, or the 3rd game if they ever do that kind of thing. Like the Arrowverse, but for the Flash, you could easily do that. And the reason why I think Barry should be first is because, quite frankly, I think it sets up Wally being the Flash. I mean, I just saw a really cool comic, you know, of, I think it was Wally West talking to Diana. And, I mean, it was about an issue that I'm not going to talk about on video because it was kind of, you know, political and all that. But you could really see that how much Wally cares about Barry and his views of being the Flash. And this is like several years ago before they retconned Barry out. It's about, you know, again, I won't describe the issue, but just before Barry's mother had died and his father went to prison. Like, they retconned that in the comics several years ago. And so, you know, the views are different, but it really did kind of explain to me and express to me, like, hey, Wally does care what Barry's views are as a Flash. So if this were to be expressed more and more, I think Barry being the first Flash in all these cases, live action, animation, comics, the video game world, assuming they ever go down that route, would be a very, 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 very smart idea, because it can set up who Wally West is as the Flash. And not just, let's focus on Barry because, you know, Barry Allen. Let's focus on Wally West after Barry ends up being the Flash. Maybe you kill him off, or you just send him to a different location. Like, you keep him in Central City and you send Wally off to Keystone or whatever. You know, you send him off somewhere else and focus on Wally then. Don't, you know, you can have both. Clearly you have both, but let's try to make it work with having both. And I think that's kind of the moral here, you know, to kind of look at and be like, well, what can we do differently, if anything differently? I do think that, again, bias here, but I do prefer Barry over Wally, purely because my first ever interaction with the Flash was through the CW show, with Grant as Barry Allen, the Flash. And I didn't even learn about Wally till like a couple of years ago. When I really started getting the comics a little bit, not a lot, but, you know, enough. And so I don't know much about Wally West, as I'm sure some of you who are probably watching this do. But, like I said already, as a fan of The Flash, I am 100% supporting this, what they're doing right now. Putting Wally in the spotlight. Because it really does seem like he hasn't been in the spotlight. And I don't really understand, if you can't say you're a fan of The Flash and then not support someone being the Flash other than Barry Allen and then being the spotlight. You can't tell me you're a fan of the character when you don't support that. Yes, I would prefer if it was Barry more than Wally, but like I said 5 times by now, Wally deserves to be in the spotlight. As fans of this character, if you're a fan of the Flash, not particularly Barry Allen, but fans of the Flash as a character, we should be supporting this no matter what. Now, there are a lot of people who are supporting this. I'm not saying there aren't. But there are a lot of people who want Barry Allen and are attacking this because, oh, it's Wally, not Barry. Barry's still alive in this universe. I mean, they made that very clear in the description that they're talking about. I mean, Barry's still alive. He's still kicking around, still running around as the Flash. It's just now we're introducing a new hero, someone who hasn't had a spotlight. Like, that's what this is. And we should be supporting that, not judging it. And it's really kind of sad that people, you know, gotta attack everything because it's the day and age of comics, the day and age of superheroes where you attack everything. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be done this way, at least for the fandom. And again, I prefer Barry over Wally, but I'm still supporting it because I love the Flash as a character. If you love this character, you should be on the wagon of supporting this, not the other way around. Whether you love Barry Allen more than Wally, or you love Wally more than Barry, there's no reason for hate to go to either character just purely because Wally's going to be in the spotlight for a while, when he damn well deserves it. So, again, I understand people want more Barry. We've had him for over, like, several decades. Like, let's give him a break, and let's do Wally. That's what we can do. And the route that they're taking him seems very, 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 very cool, and I'm all here for it. So, yeah. But nonetheless, thank you guys for watching the video. Have a good day. Have a good night. Stay safe. And I'll see you next video. Bye, guys.